The scene opens with a Japanese man, wearing extremely colorful pajamas, waking up in a white, empty room with no visible doors, windows, or ceiling. As he approaches one of the walls, he finds a protrusion shaped like a male member. Curious, he pokes it a few times before pressing the tip, causing hundreds of laughing cherubs to emerge from the walls and floor, quickly disappearing but leaving their own protruding members behind. This is the beginning of the phase known as learning. Smelling the finger he used to touch the bizarre button, the man screams in fear and starts crying, begging for help in vain. With no alternative, he decides to press other buttons, receiving a variety of objects, from a small toothbrush to a large vase. Accumulating a pile of chopsticks, he momentarily entertains himself until a cart comes out of a wall and hits his legs. Another button turns into a buttock that releases gas in his face. Clearly, he is living a more absurd version of The Truman Show. Before we continue, I'd like to recommend Matt Parr's course for growing on YouTube. It helped me monetize several channels and earn over $10,000 from them. If you're interested, just click the link in the description and check it out. I guarantee you won't regret it. It's definitely the best investment I've ever made in my life. Truman Show. Hours later, the room is filled with random objects. Hungry, he accidentally discovers a button that gives him sushi, but becomes frustrated when he can't find soy sauce. After gorging on sushi without sauce, he finally gets the soy sauce bottle he wanted. But it's too late. In his frustration, a pair of 3D glasses appears, revealing a cherub pointing at the member on the wall. However, pressing the button only results in a countdown and a giant buttock passing gas on him. Later, he reads 5 volumes of a manga, but upon looking for the 6th, he only finds volumes 7, 8, and 9, increasing his irritation. Amidst the confusion, he accidentally discovers a button that opens a hidden door. Excitedly, he loses track of which button is the right one, leading to bizarre situations like a member of an African tribe running through the room and water pouring on his head. Frustrated attempts to keep the door open lead him to create creative but ineffective solutions. He tries everything, using his foot to hold the button, hitting it with a racket, using jump rope, and even fans, but nothing works. He then decides to use a heavy vase, but trying to fill it with water and sushi proves impossible to move. A series of trial and error leads him to break the vase, and in a fit of rage, he covers the button with sushi, only to see the protrusion reappear among the grains of rice. Finally, after a nap and some painkillers, he tries using a rope to swing to the door, only to find it locked. Frustrated, he kicks the wall, revealing a key floating in the middle of the room, but it disappears when the button returns to its original position. The man then needs to find the button again to keep both the key and the door open. He marks the correct button with a piece of sushi, determined not to lose sight of it this time. This ironic and absurd story, directed by Hitoshi Matsumoto, reminds us of films like Beetlejuice for its strangeness and dark humor. Interestingly, this film was shot entirely in studios in Japan and Mexico, adding a unique touch to the narrative. If I were in his place, I wouldn't continue pressing the buttons randomly without a plan. Instead, I would make a map or system to identify and remember the functions of the buttons. It's interesting how the film plays with the idea of experimentation and patience in absurd situations, perhaps reflecting the human experience of trying to find order amidst chaos. But continuing, he finds the button faster and proceeds with his plan. He makes the rope appear and swings on it to reach different buttons, but it's still not enough. Falling to the floor, he sees a plunger he got from one of the many buttons and has an idea to solve his little problem. He can use the plunger to touch the wall and push himself further. After one failed attempt, the plan goes smoothly, and the combination of swinging on the rope and pushing with the plunger allows him to press the button, grab the key, press the door button, and reach the door before it closes. He wastes no time and inserts the key into the lock, turning it quickly, but when he tries to open the door, he finds an unpleasant surprise. It also has a separate lock at the top requiring 3 numbers to open. The man runs out, being hit by the door as it closes, and in frustration, he throws the plunger at the opposite wall, activating the button that releases the African tribe member. Seeing him pass by, he realizes something. There are 3 numbers painted on his forehead, which must be the necessary combination. With limited time behind the door, the man goes through the process of swinging on the rope and jumping 3 times, one for each number to be entered. On the 3rd time, he stays there and opens the door, which is a bit stuck and needs extra force to open. When he finally succeeds, the part of the wall behind him closes, leaving him trapped with not enough space to finish opening the door. Devastated, the man sits on the floor and starts crying, reminiscing about all the fun he had with the objects he got from the headbutt. In a moment of pure irony, the man decides to try different buttons. One makes a metal band singer spit fire on the audience during a show in Los Angeles. Another makes a Russian magician fail his trick when trying to make his assistant disappear, and the 3rd makes a man in China bark at his own dogs. About to give up, the man sees a light coming from above and realizes that, unlike the last room, there is no ceiling here and he can see angels flying in the distance. He decides to try something completely new. Instead of pressing the member buttons, he will use them to climb the walls. It works, and each time he grabs a button with his hands or steps on them with his feet, something incredible happens on Earth, from flowers blooming to an elephant dying. The higher he climbs, the more complex the effects become. Not just nature anymore, but also humanity and both small and big things like a toaster and the moon landing. By the time he reaches the top, both his hair and beard have grown, and he no longer needs to hold onto the wall. Now he can float too, just like the angels, and using all the experience gained from the previous rooms, he embraces his role as God and starts choosing humanity's greatest hits on purpose instead of pressing buttons randomly. When he finishes, he is surrounded by feathers instead of walls, and he enters a bright portal that takes him to the last room. This one has the continents on its walls and a huge member button that the man is about to press. Interestingly, the protagonist is a man trapped in a strange room with objects moving when he presses the phallic buttons on the wall. It's an example of how creativity can lead to deep reflection, even in absurd scenarios. If I were in the man's situation, I wouldn't have tried climbing the buttons on the wall because it would seem like a bizarre and senseless idea, but seeing the result, I would try it for fun. It's interesting how the film uses comedy and irony to explore the idea of cause and effect in a totally new and unexpected way, similar to the classic Groundhog Day, where the protagonist's actions have direct and often hilarious consequences. Thank you very much for your support. Take care, and see.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect.